Ever find yourself staring at your screen, completely unable to focus on the task in front of you? That's not just fatigue. It's your brain physically changing due to burnout. What exactly happens inside your head when chronic stress takes over? In this video, I'll reveal how burnout damages 3 critical regions of your brain, making concentration feel impossible. You'll discover why your focus disappears and what's happening at a neurological level. But here's the good news. I've gathered science-backed strategies that can help your brain recover its natural focus abilities. Ready to reclaim your concentration and mental clarity? Let's dive in. The real definition of burnout. Have you ever wondered if what you're feeling is actually burnout or just regular tiredness? Maybe you took a day off or slept in on the weekend, but still woke up feeling completely drained. That's because there's a huge difference between being tired and being burned out. Most of us think burnout is just being super tired from working too hard, but it's way more serious than that. I used to think I was just going through a rough patch when I couldn't focus on anything for more than 5 minutes. Turns out, my brain was actually changing on a physical level. Burnout physically alters your brain. The World Health Organization recognizes burnout as an occupational phenomenon, a real condition that affects millions of people. Burnout has 3 main parts, and you might recognize some of these in yourself. First, there's feeling emotionally drained, like you just can't give any more of yourself to your work. Second, there's becoming detached from your work. Maybe you start feeling negative or cynical about what you do. And third, there's that feeling that you're not accomplishing anything worthwhile, no matter how hard you try. My friend in healthcare once told me she felt numb walking into work, going through motions with patients, but feeling disconnected from a job she once loved. This disconnect from meaningful work exemplifies burnout at its core. The statistics are alarming. Nearly 75% of American employees report experiencing burnout at their current job. That's 3 out of 4 people around you at work. Over half say they've experienced it multiple times, making burnout practically an epidemic in today's workplace. Young women between 18 to 34 are especially vulnerable, with studies showing higher burnout rates in this demographic. My sister in tech experienced this firsthand, starting her dream job enthusiastically, but within a year feeling dread at the mere sight of her laptop. Here's the key difference between tiredness and burnout. Tiredness improves after rest, but burnout persists. If a vacation refreshes you, that was normal fatigue. If 2 weeks off still leaves you emotionally exhausted and disconnected on your first day back, that's burnout. When you're burned out, your brain's wiring gets disrupted from prolonged overload. Psychologist Herbert Freudenberger, who first coined the term burnout, described it as a physical and mental collapse that happens when you've been working too hard for too long. Burnout rarely stems from one major crisis. Researchers describe it as the accumulation of hundreds or thousands of tiny disappointments, each one hardly noticeable on its own. Your brain tallies these small stresses until it reaches a breaking point. I experienced this when suddenly trivial things became irritating. My coworkers' keyboard typing sounded like torture, and weekly team meetings filled me with dread. These minor annoyances accumulated unnoticed until they became overwhelming. Burnout manifests in 3 primary ways. Emotional exhaustion, complete depletion of physical and emotional energy. Depersonalization, withdrawing from people and feeling detached about your work. And reduced personal accomplishment, declining performance and feeling your efforts are meaningless. My neighbor, a high school teacher, exemplified this last year when he began forgetting to grade papers, something he'd never done before. He described sitting at his desk, staring at paper stacks for hours, unable to begin. His brain struggled with basic functions. We often miss early warning signs, dismissing them as temporary rough patches. Understanding that burnout is a neurological condition is crucial to addressing it properly. Your brain is altering its structure and function, requiring specific healing strategies. When I finally recognized what was happening to me, it was actually relieving. I'd been forgetting simple things and struggling with basic decisions, fearing early onset dementia. Learning these were classic burnout symptoms meant there was both an explanation and a path to recovery. A woman I interviewed burst into tears when her doctor diagnosed burnout. I thought I was just bad at my job suddenly, she said. Finding out my brain was being affected by chronic stress made me realize it wasn't a character flaw. Fortunately, these brain changes can be reversed with proper intervention. Your brain possesses remarkable healing capacity, but understanding what's happening is the first step toward recovery. Now that we understand what burnout truly is, let's examine what occurs in your brain when focus becomes impossible. Understanding the science behind your concentration issues, memory problems, and emotional dysregulation equips you to begin healing effectively. Think of burnout like a physical injury. You wouldn't try walking off a broken leg without proper treatment. Similarly, burnout requires understanding exactly what's breaking down in your brain to provide appropriate care. In the next section, I'll show you which brain regions burnout affects and how these changes explain your symptoms. Your brain is physically changing when burned out, but with the right approach, you can help it recover. Your brain on burnout, the big picture. Did you know your brain physically changes shape when you're burned out? I'm not talking about just feeling tired or stressed. I mean actual structural changes that scientists can see on brain scans. This is a physical condition that affects how your brain works. Your brain has 3 key regions that get damaged during burnout, each affecting your focus differently. The prefrontal cortex sits right behind your forehead and handles decision-making. The hippocampus manages memory, and the amygdala processes emotions. Damage to these areas triggers those frustrating burnout symptoms. These changes can persist for months or years without proper intervention. I spoke with a researcher who showed me brain scans from people who experienced severe burnout 5 years ago and still display altered brain structures. Concerning, isn't it? When constantly stressed, your body continuously produces cortisol. This hormone helps during short-term stress situations like escaping a bear. However, when it remains in your system for extended periods, it damages brain tissue. Your brain functions like a smartphone. Normally, you close apps when finished to conserve battery. Burnout resembles running 50 apps simultaneously. Your processor overheats, battery drains rapidly, and eventually the system malfunctions, mirroring what happens in your brain during burnout. Brain scans of burnout sufferers reveal measurable physical differences compared to healthy brains. The frontal cortex becomes thinner, the hippocampus can shrink, and the amygdala often enlarges and becomes more reactive. One study demonstrated that prolonged workplace stress correlates with significant reductions in gray matter volumes in stress-sensitive brain regions. Researchers can literally observe these changes on brain scans. These structural changes explain the symptoms you might experience. Sarah, a software developer I interviewed, described her prefrontal cortex damage. I used to code for hours without losing my train of thought. Now I barely make it through a single function without forgetting what I was doing. Mike, a teacher, exhibited hippocampus strain. I keep forgetting my students' names even though I've known them all year. Yesterday, I walked into a classroom and completely blanked on what subject I was supposed to be teaching. Jenna, a nurse, demonstrated amygdala overactivity. I started crying because the vending machine was out of my favorite snack. I never used to react that way to small stuff. During severe burnout, you might struggle with simple decisions like choosing lunch options. That's your prefrontal cortex malfunctioning. You might forget important meetings despite writing them down. Your hippocampus struggling. Or perhaps you snap at loved ones over minor issues, your amygdala in overdrive. These brain changes create a difficult cycle. An affected prefrontal cortex leads to poorer decisions about health and work-life balance. Hippocampus damage makes you forget self-care lessons. An overactive amygdala increases emotional reactions to stress, generating additional problems. A doctor explained that burnout's brain changes share similarities with depression and chronic stress disorders, but with unique patterns specifically affecting focus, memory, and emotional control. The neurotoxic effects of prolonged stress alter neural pathway functioning, explaining why burnout sufferers struggle with executive functions like planning and organizing, experience attention control and working memory deterioration, and suffer emotional exhaustion and irritability. One woman I interviewed couldn't remember her phone password after using it for 3 years. A man reported sitting in his car for 20 minutes, unable to decide whether to enter the grocery store or return home. These experiences directly result from physical brain changes. The good news? Your brain demonstrates remarkable resilience. These changes can reverse with appropriate intervention. Just as chronic stress alters your brain, it can recover when given proper healing conditions. A researcher compared it to a garden. Burnout resembles a drought, damaging plants. With proper care, water, nutrients, protection from harsh conditions, the garden regrows, sometimes stronger than before. In the upcoming sections, we'll examine each affected brain region in detail, starting with your prefrontal cortex, your brain's command center. When burnout strikes, it's as if your brain's CEO vanishes without notice. We'll explore exactly how this impacts your focus and what remedies exist before moving on to the hippocampus and amygdala in subsequent sections. The prefrontal cortex, your focus control center. Ever wonder why you can't seem to make even simple decisions when you're burned out? Like when you stare at your email for 20 minutes, unable to figure out how to respond to a basic question? Or when choosing what to eat for lunch feels as complicated as solving a math problem? Your prefrontal cortex is the culprit here. This part of your brain sits right behind your forehead and controls all your high-level thinking skills. It's your focus headquarters, your planning department, and your decision-making center all rolled into one. When you're trying to concentrate on a task or ignore distractions, your prefrontal cortex is doing the heavy lifting. Melissa, who works in marketing, described a situation many of us recognize. Before burnout, I could juggle multiple projects and deadlines without breaking a sweat. Now I sit at my computer and can't even decide which email to open first. It's like my brain just freezes. This freezing sensation directly relates to what happens in your prefrontal cortex during burnout. The science is alarming. Burnout actually shrinks this part of your brain. This physical change appears on brain scans and significantly impairs your ability to concentrate. Your prefrontal cortex normally directs attention, filters out distractions, and keeps you on task. It tells the rest of your brain to ignore that notification sound while you work on a report. But when burnout damages this area, this critical command center becomes much less active. Brain imaging studies reveal reduced activity in the prefrontal cortex of people experiencing burnout. Additionally, it forms fewer connections to other brain regions, essentially breaking down your brain's communication network. This explains why you might find yourself staring at your screen for hours, completely unable to start or finish simple tasks. Your brain's ability to initiate action and maintain attention is physically compromised. When I experienced burnout years ago, I would sit down to write an email and just stare at the blank screen. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, but I couldn't make them type. My prefrontal cortex wasn't sending the right signals to get me started. Studies show that chronic stress reduces blood flow to this area by up to 20%. Your brain's command center receives 20% less oxygen and nutrients than it needs to function properly. This explains why tasks that used to be easy suddenly feel impossibly hard. Your brain literally lacks the resources to process information efficiently. A project that once took an hour might now take 3 or remain incomplete. This reduced function makes every decision feel overwhelming. Should I respond to this email now or later? Which task should I start with? What should I say in this meeting? Carlos, a software developer, shared his experience. I used to make dozens of complex coding decisions every day without thinking twice. During burnout, I would spend 30 minutes debating whether to use one function or another. I thought I was losing my programming skills, but my brain was just too exhausted to decide. His struggle directly reflects the physical changes occurring in his prefrontal cortex. Another consequence occurs when your prefrontal cortex stops communicating effectively with your limbic system, the emotional part of your brain. Normally, your prefrontal cortex helps keep emotions in check while you work. When impaired by burnout, emotions can interfere with your focus, explaining why you might feel frustrated, angry, or tearful when faced with work tasks. The prefrontal cortex also handles cognitive flexibility, your ability to switch between different tasks or adapt to new information. A teacher I spoke with experienced this disruption firsthand. I used to handle interruptions in my classroom without missing a beat. During burnout, if a student asked a question while I was explaining something, I would completely lose my train of thought. Her brain couldn't simultaneously hold information and respond to questions. Your working memory, the ability to hold information while working with it, is another prefrontal cortex function. When impaired, you might forget what you're doing mid-task, immediately forget what you just read, or lose track of conversations. I want to emphasize, your inability to focus isn't a character flaw. It's a physical change in your brain that can be reversed. You're not weak, lazy, or incompetent. Your brain is responding exactly as designed when exposed to chronic stress. The good news is that your brain has remarkable healing abilities. With the right strategies, which we'll cover later, your prefrontal cortex can recover its normal function. The connections can rebuild, activity can increase, and your focus can return. I've witnessed this recovery in many people, including myself. Next, we'll explore how burnout affects your hippocampus, your brain's memory center. This will explain why you keep forgetting important information and struggle to learn new things when burned out, completing our understanding of burnout's cognitive impact. The hippocampus, why you're so forgetful. Have you noticed yourself forgetting important meetings or constantly losing your train of thought? Maybe you've found yourself standing in your kitchen with no idea why you went there or forgotten about a deadline that used to be burned into your brain. You're not alone, and it's not because you're getting old or losing your mind. Your hippocampus is behind all these memory problems. This tiny seahorse-shaped structure sits deep in your brain and acts as your memory center. It functions as your brain's filing cabinet, responsible for forming new memories and retrieving old ones when you need them. When it's working well, you remember what you did yesterday, what you need to do tomorrow, and all those little details that keep your life running smoothly. Here's the alarming reality. Burnout can actually shrink your hippocampus by up to 8%. This critical part of your brain physically gets smaller when you're experiencing chronic stress. The part handling all your memories is literally shrinking when burned out. Jen, an accountant who experienced severe burnout during tax season, shared, "I started forgetting client names I'd known for years. One day, I completely missed a meeting I'd set up myself. I thought I was getting early onset dementia until my doctor explained it was burnout affecting my memory." This structure in your brain is extremely sensitive to stress hormones, especially cortisol. Your hippocampus has more receptors for cortisol than almost any other brain region, making it particularly vulnerable during prolonged stress periods. When burned out, high cortisol levels damage the cells in your hippocampus. These cells deteriorate, connections between them weaken, and some may die off. It's like acid slowly eroding your filing system. The files exist, but the labels become smudged and the cabinets rust shut. This damage explains why you might walk into a room and forget your purpose, struggle to remember yesterday's events, or find yourself rereading the same paragraph multiple times. These memories aren't being properly processed and stored. During my worst burnout, I would forget conversations from hours earlier. My friend would mention plans we'd made, and I'd have absolutely no recollection of it. It felt like parts of my life were disappearing. Mark, a teacher I interviewed, told me he started forgetting his students' names mid-semester, names he'd been using correctly for months. I'd look at a student I knew well and just draw a complete blank. It was humiliating and terrifying. Learning new information becomes harder when burned out because your hippocampus normally helps convert short-term memories into long-term ones. When damaged by chronic stress, this process gets disrupted. You might read an email 3 times and still not remember its content, or need to re-watch training videos repeatedly before information sticks. One woman described it as trying to write on wet paper. The information just doesn't stay where I put it. Another said it felt like trying to fill a bucket with holes in the bottom. Your memory center requires proper sleep to function, but burnout disrupts sleep patterns, creating a vicious cycle. During sleep, your hippocampus consolidates memories, moving important information from short-term to long-term storage. It's like your brain filing away the day's important documents while you rest. Burnout typically brings sleep problems. Trouble falling asleep, nighttime waking, or never reaching deep sleep stages where memory consolidation happens. Your hippocampus doesn't get the downtime needed to process memories properly. The encouraging news is that this damage isn't permanent if addressed. Your hippocampus has remarkable regenerative abilities and can form new connections. It's one of the few adult brain areas where new neurons can still develop, a process called neurogenesis. Think of it like your brain gradually restoring corrupted files, rebuilding the system stronger than before. People who've recovered from burnout often report their memory becomes better than before. They've learned proper brain care, and their hippocampus has responded by rebuilding itself. Your forgetfulness isn't due to aging or decreased intelligence, it's because burnout physically affects your memory center. This isn't a character flaw or lack of effort, it's a physical brain change caused by chronic stress. Understanding this can be liberating. When I learned my memory problems stemmed from physical brain changes due to burnout, I stopped self-criticism and focused on helping my brain heal. This physical understanding explains why advice like try harder to remember or use more sticky notes falls short. The issue isn't your system or effort, it's that your memory structure isn't functioning properly. Jen later told me that learning about the hippocampus was her turning point. Once I understood what was happening in my brain, I could focus on fixing the actual problem instead of just managing symptoms. I prioritized sleep, exercise, and stress reduction, and my memory gradually improved over about 3 months. If you're experiencing memory problems alongside other burnout symptoms, know that your brain is responding normally to abnormal conditions. Your hippocampus is struggling under chronic stress, but can recover with proper support. Now let's examine why you might feel more emotional or irritable when burned out. Another part of your brain is changing too, your amygdala. And its changes explain why small problems, your emotional overreactions, like massive crises. Ever find yourself crying over a minor setback or snapping at someone for no reason? Maybe your coworker made a small comment that felt like a personal attack, or perhaps you burst into tears when your coffee spilled. These aren't random emotional outbursts, they're directly connected to what's happening in a specific part of your brain during burnout. Your amygdala is your brain's emotional alarm system. This tiny almond-shaped structure deep in your brain constantly scans your environment for danger. When functioning normally, it helps you respond appropriately to genuine threats. During burnout, however, this system goes completely haywire. While other parts of your brain, like the prefrontal cortex and hippocampus, actually shrink during burnout, your amygdala does the opposite. It enlarges and becomes more reactive. Studies show the amygdala can increase in size by up to 15% during periods of chronic stress, creating significant physical changes in your brain. Jamie, a project manager who experienced severe burnout last year, described the transformation vividly. I used to be the calm one in the office. During burnout, I found myself tearing up when someone questioned my timeline estimates. My chest would tighten, my face would flush, and I'd feel this surge of rage when meetings ran long. It was like I had no emotional filter anymore. This enlarged amygdala is designed to trigger your fight-or-flight response when needed, during actual danger, like stepping into traffic or encountering a threatening person. Burnout, however, puts it on constant high alert, making it activate for non-threatening situations too. Imagine your amygdala as a smoke detector set to such high sensitivity that it blares when someone's cooking toast 2 houses away. This hyperactive state means you perceive threats everywhere, even in neutral situations. Constructive feedback feels like a personal attack. Minor changes in plans seem catastrophic. Simple questions feel like interrogations. When I was burned out, seeing quick question in an email subject would send me into immediate panic, my heart racing, palms sweating, and a wave of dread washing over me before I even opened it. My overactive amygdala transformed normal work communication into perceived danger. A teacher I interviewed shared a similar experience. I used to roll with the punches when lessons didn't go as planned. During burnout, if the projector didn't work, my stomach would knot instantly. I'd feel this rush of panic like everything was falling apart. My hands would shake, and I'd get snappy with students over tiny things that never bothered me before. This overactive emotional center also weakens its connection to your prefrontal cortex, which normally helps regulate emotions. The prefrontal cortex typically sends inhibitory signals to the amygdala to moderate stress interpretation. Chronic stress damages this connection, preventing your rational brain from calming your emotional responses effectively. Under normal conditions, your prefrontal cortex would intervene with, "That email is just a routine question, not a crisis." During burnout, this communication breaks down. Research confirms that chronic stress causes neurotoxic damage in the prefrontal cortex, disrupting its inhibitory effect on the amygdala. One man described this disconnection perfectly. "It felt like the rational part of my brain was locked in a soundproof room. I could see myself overreacting, but I couldn't stop it, like watching someone else drive my body while I yelled uselessly from the backseat." This disrupted connection creates a vicious cycle. Your amygdala overreacts to minor stressors, creating more stress, further damaging your prefrontal cortex, leading to even less emotional control. A woman I interviewed recognized her burnout had become serious when she found herself sobbing in her car because the drive-thru got her coffee order wrong. "I knew it wasn't about the coffee," she said, "but I couldn't stop the tidal wave of feelings. My chest felt tight, tears wouldn't stop flowing. It was like every stress I'd been suppressing came pouring out over this tiny incident." Your emotional reactions aren't a sign of weakness. They're happening because burnout has physically altered your brain's threat detection system. This isn't a character flaw or lack of resilience. It's a neurological response to chronic stress that anyone would experience under similar conditions. Understanding this physical basis can be incredibly freeing. When I learned about the amygdala's role in my emotional reactions during burnout, I stopped feeling ashamed of my outbursts and recognized them as signals that my brain needed care. This physical understanding explains why advice like "just calm down" is so useless during burnout. It's like telling someone with a broken leg to just walk normally. The problem isn't your attitude. It's actual physical changes in your brain's structure and function. The good news is that your brain can heal through neuroplasticity. These changes aren't permanent. Your brain has an amazing ability to rebuild itself when given the right conditions. I've seen people recover from severe burnout with appropriate approaches. Their emotional regulation improves and overreactions decrease. In the next section, we'll explore how your brain can rewire itself even after significant burnout damage. Neuroplasticity, your brain's healing superpower. What if I told you that all these scary brain changes can actually be reversed? I'm not talking about just managing symptoms or learning to live with brain fog. I mean, your brain can actually heal itself, rebuilding the circuits and connections that burnout has damaged. Your brain has this amazing ability called neuroplasticity, the power to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections throughout your life. This remarkable capacity means the damage from burnout isn't permanent. Your brain is designed to adapt, recover, and even thrive after stress. Scientists can actually see these changes happening in brain scans, showing how the brain physically rewires and heals itself when given the right conditions. I remember talking to Dr. Michaels, a neuroscientist who studies burnout recovery. She showed me before and after brain scans of people who had recovered from severe burnout. The differences were stunning. Areas that had been underactive became vibrant with activity again. Connections that had weakened were rebuilt, sometimes even stronger than before. But this healing won't happen automatically just because you take a vacation or reduce your workload. You need to take specific actions to trigger your brain's natural healing processes. Your brain needs the right signals to start rebuilding itself. Think about it this way. If you break your leg, taking time off work isn't enough to heal it. You need a proper cast, physical therapy, and the right nutrients. Your brain works the same way. It needs specific inputs to activate its repair mechanisms. Neuroplasticity enables your brain to form new connections and grow new neurons throughout your life through neurogenesis. Your brain creates new pathways when old ones get damaged, like a GPS recalculating when there's traffic. If burnout has damaged your prefrontal cortex connections, your brain can build new ones. A woman I interviewed described her recovery from burnout. It felt like my brain was making detours around the damaged parts. At first, these new routes were slow and inefficient, but with practice they became my new normal. Now I can focus and remember things even better than before my burnout. Studies show that the brain can begin showing positive changes in as little as 8 weeks with the right interventions. One research team found that a combination of stress reduction techniques, exercise, and quality sleep led to measurable improvements in brain function. After just 2 months, participants showed better attention, improved memory, and reduced emotional reactivity. Marcus, a software engineer, experienced a dramatic turning point in his recovery from severe burnout. After months of struggling with cognitive fog from 70-hour workweeks, he committed to a brain recovery program. "I couldn't code anymore," he told me. "I would stare at problems I used to solve easily and feel nothing but fog in my head." The breakthrough came when he started combining daily meditation with short, focused work periods. One day, I suddenly saw a solution pattern I'd never noticed before. My brain had found different pathways to solutions. It's like the burnout forced me to rebuild my mental approaches from scratch. The key is providing the right conditions and activities to promote this natural healing process. You need to give your brain what it needs to rebuild: quality sleep, physical activity, stress reduction, and mental challenges that push you just the right amount without overwhelming you. Think of it like physical therapy for your brain. After a physical injury, you don't immediately return to intense activity. You start with gentle movements and gradually increase the challenge. Your brain needs the same approach, the right amount of challenge without further damaging already stressed neural pathways. Neuroplasticity creates an upward spiral. Small improvements lead to more capacity, which enables more healing, which creates even more capacity. At first, the changes might be subtle. Maybe you can focus for 5 minutes instead of 3, or you remember a name without having to look it up. But these small wins compound over time. Sarah, a teacher who recovered from serious burnout, described it perfectly. Recovery wasn't linear. Some days I felt worse. But overall, each month was better than the last. It was like my brain was slowly coming back online, one circuit at a time. Your brain's healing abilities mean you can recover your focus, memory, and emotional balance. The prefrontal cortex can regain its ability to help you concentrate. The hippocampus can rebuild its capacity for memories, and the amygdala can return to normal activity, so you're not constantly in fight or flight mode. This capacity for recovery is always there, waiting to be activated. Recovery takes time and consistent effort, but real physical healing is possible. Now, let's explore the first and most important strategy for healing your brain: getting quality sleep. Sleep isn't just rest for your brain, it's active recovery time when your brain clears out toxins, consolidates memories, and repairs damaged neural pathways. For your brain to heal from burnout, quality sleep is essential. Sleep, your brain's recovery mode. Did you know that skipping just 90 minutes of sleep reduces your brain function by up to 32%? That's like trying to drive a car with only 2/3 of the engine working. No wonder everything feels harder when you're tired. Sleep is when your brain does some of its most important work. During sleep, your brain cleans up the mess that stress left behind during the day, functioning as the night shift janitorial crew for your mind. But here's the problem. Burnout often causes sleep problems. Maybe you lie awake worrying about work, or you fall asleep but wake up at 3 a.m. with your mind racing. Or maybe you sleep for 8 hours but still wake up feeling exhausted. This creates a frustrating cycle that's hard to break. Your brain needs sleep to recover from burnout, but burnout makes it really hard to sleep well. Lisa, a healthcare worker I interviewed, experienced this firsthand. I was so burned out that I'd lie in bed for hours, thinking about all the patients I saw that day and worrying about the ones I'd see tomorrow. I knew I needed sleep to function, but my brain wouldn't shut off. Her experience illustrates exactly what happens when burnout interferes with the brain's natural recovery process. During deep sleep, your brain activates its specialized cleanup system, the glymphatic system, which flushes out cortisol and other stress chemicals that damage brain tissue. In deep sleep, this system becomes 10 times more active, clearing away the toxic waste products that accumulated during the day. Without sufficient deep sleep, these toxins continue circulating, causing further damage to your prefrontal cortex, hippocampus, and other vital brain regions. Research shows that 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep can reduce brain inflammation by up to 40%. This matters because inflammation is a primary mechanism through which burnout damages your brain. Getting enough sleep activates your brain's natural anti-inflammatory system. When I was recovering from burnout, I treated sleep as a non-negotiable priority. I maintained a strict 10 p.m. bedtime. My friends would invite me out, and I'd decline, explaining I had an appointment with my pillow. Sleep became my #1 priority because I understood its healing power. Your hippocampus transfers memories from short-term to long-term storage while you sleep. Without adequate sleep, these files never get properly stored, explaining why memory suffers during sleep deprivation. This is why one good night's sleep can immediately improve focus and memory. Problems that seemed insurmountable suddenly have clear solutions after restful sleep. Marcus, a programmer I interviewed, noticed this pattern in his work. After one good night's sleep, I'd look at the same code and immediately see 3 better ways to write it, he told me. It was like I gained 20 IQ points overnight. Surprisingly, maintaining a consistent sleep schedule proves more important than total sleep hours. Going to bed and waking up at the same time daily, even on weekends, regulates your body's natural sleep-wake cycle. Your brain thrives on routine. A consistent bedtime triggers your brain to prepare for sleep by releasing melatonin and lowering body temperature. Similarly, waking at the same time sets your body clock for the entire day. Jamie, another burnout survivor, found that establishing a consistent sleep schedule was challenging but transformative. At first, I hated it, no more sleeping in on Sundays. But after 2 weeks, I started naturally getting sleepy at the same time each night and waking up before my alarm. My sleep got so much deeper. Creating a wind-down routine helps tremendously. Your brain needs transition time from daily stimulation to the calm state required for sleep. Spend 30 to 60 minutes before bed engaged in relaxing activities, reading, not on screens, taking a warm shower, gentle stretching, or meditation. Your sleep environment matters too. Keep your bedroom cool, dark, and quiet. Consider blackout curtains, white noise machines, or earplugs if needed. Ban screens from the bedroom. Their blue light directly interferes with your brain's sleep preparation. For racing thoughts at bedtime, try keeping a worry journal. Writing down concerns with brief action plans signals to your brain, "We've got this handled. You can rest now." Prioritizing sleep is essential medicine for your burnout-damaged brain. Every neural system functions better when you're well-rested, accelerating recovery significantly. Though challenging with deadlines and responsibilities, this investment yields remarkable returns, increased productivity, and improved well-being. While sleep helps your brain eliminate harmful chemicals, physical exercise stimulates the growth of new brain cells and connections, directly counteracting burnout damage. Together, these two natural therapies form a powerful combination for rebuilding your brain's resilience and capacity. Exercise, the brain-building workout. What if I told you that just 30 minutes of walking can immediately improve your focus for up to 2 hours? It sounds too good to be true, but research shows it actually works. I tried this myself during my worst burnout phase. I'd hit a wall with work, go for a quick walk around the block, and come back able to think clearly again. Exercise literally regrows brain tissue damaged by burnout. Brain scans reveal physical differences between regular exercisers and non-exercisers. Exercisers have more brain volume in the prefrontal cortex and hippocampus, exactly the regions burnout damages. When you're burned out, exercise often drops from your routine. When you can barely get through your workday, changing clothes and working out feels impossible. You're exhausted with no energy, thinking exercise will drain you more. I've been there too. Maya, a marketing director who experienced severe burnout, told me exercise was the last thing I wanted to do. I could barely get out of bed. But my doctor basically prescribed it, so I forced myself to start with just 10 minutes of walking. It was like someone turned the lights back on in my brain. Exercise increases blood flow to your brain by up to 15%, delivering oxygen and nutrients needed for repair. Your heart pumps faster, sending more blood throughout your body, including your brain. This delivers more oxygen and glucose, your brain's primary energy source, while removing waste products efficiently. Your brain uses about 20% of your body's energy despite being only 2% of your body weight. Exercise triggers the release of BDNF, a protein that functions as fertilizer for growing new brain cells. This brain-derived neurotrophic factor helps form new neural connections and strengthen existing ones, promoting neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to reorganize and heal itself. During my burnout recovery, I followed a simple rule. If stuck on a problem for more than 30 minutes, I had to move. Sometimes that meant walking around the block, other times dancing to one song. Almost always, I returned with a clearer mind and fresh ideas. Research shows that 150 minutes of moderate exercise weekly can increase hippocampus volume by up to 2%. That's just 30 minutes, 5 days a week, less time than most people spend on social media daily, actually regrowing your memory center that shrinks during burnout. A teacher I interviewed experienced this firsthand. After 3 months of walking every morning before school, I stopped having that tip of the tongue feeling where I couldn't remember students' names. My memory improved so dramatically that colleagues commented on it. You don't need intense workouts for these benefits. 3 10-minute walks throughout your day provide the same brain-boosting effects. When burnout makes an hour-long gym session overwhelming, a quick 10-minute walk remains doable. A programmer I know sets a timer for a 10-minute walking break after each hour of coding. Not only does it rest my eyes, he explained, but I often solve problems during these walks that I was stuck on at my desk. Exercise reduces brain inflammation, a major factor in burnout-related brain fog. Chronic stress creates inflammation that interferes with neural communication, like static on a phone line. Physical activity directly counteracts this, clearing the static and improving brain function. Additionally, exercise regulates your hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, your body's stress response system. When overactive due to burnout, this system continuously pumps out stress hormones. Exercise helps reset it to normal functioning, reducing the flood of stress chemicals. Outdoor exercise provides even greater benefits. Research shows that exercising in natural settings reduces stress hormones more effectively than identical indoor exercise. The combination of movement, fresh air, and natural surroundings especially soothes the burnout-affected brain. Exercise also releases endorphins, natural mood elevators that break through the emotional flatness of burnout. During my worst burnout, I felt like I was seeing the world through gray-colored glasses. After establishing a regular walking routine, I experienced moments of genuine joy again. Initially just during walks, but eventually these positive feelings lasted longer. The key is starting small and maintaining consistency. If deeply burned out, begin with just 5 minutes of walking or gentle stretching, gradually building up as energy improves. Consistency matters more than intensity or duration, especially at first. Regular physical activity functions as a growth formula for your brain, reversing burnout damage by increasing blood flow, stimulating new brain cell production, reducing inflammation, and regulating stress response. Even a short walk gives your brain what it needs to begin healing. As your brain heals through exercise, it becomes more receptive to the benefits of mindfulness practices. While exercise rebuilds brain tissue, mindfulness, which we'll explore next, rewires connections between different brain regions, strengthening pathways damaged by burnout, rewiring your neural complementary healing approach. Did you know that just 8 weeks of mindfulness practice can actually rebuild your prefrontal cortex? I'm not making this up. Scientists have the brain scans to prove it. It's pretty amazing when you think about it. Just sitting quietly and focusing your attention can physically change your brain structure. Mindfulness is a specific type of mental training that physically changes the structure of your brain. Think of it like weight training, but for your neural circuits. Just like lifting weights builds your muscles, mindfulness builds the connections between different parts of your brain. Many people think mindfulness takes too much time or isn't practical enough. I used to feel exactly the same way. I remember thinking, I don't have time to sit and breathe when my inbox has 200 unread emails. But mindfulness doesn't have to take long to be effective, and the payoff is huge for your burned-out brain. Alex, a software developer who experienced severe burnout, told me, "I thought mindfulness was just some woo-woo nonsense, but my doctor insisted I try it. After about 3 weeks of daily practice, I noticed I wasn't reacting to work stress the same way. Problems that used to send me spiraling suddenly felt manageable." Mindfulness practices strengthen the connection between your prefrontal cortex and amygdala, improving your emotional control. Remember how burnout damages the connection between these two regions? That's why you might overreact emotionally to small problems. Mindfulness actually rebuilds this neural pathway, helping your thinking brain regain control over your emotional brain. When I first started practicing mindfulness, I noticed this effect quickly. Someone would send me a terse email, and instead of immediately feeling attacked, there would be this tiny pause, just enough space for me to think, maybe they're just busy, rather than assuming they were mad at me. MRI studies show that just 20 minutes of mindfulness daily increases gray matter in areas controlling focus and attention. The regions of your brain that handle attention, self-awareness, and emotional regulation physically get larger and form more connections after regular mindfulness practice. The key is consistency. Even 5 minutes daily is more effective than 30 minutes once a week. Your brain responds to regular, repeated signals. A short daily practice creates more lasting changes than longer, sporadic sessions. It's like watering a plant a little bit each day instead of drowning it once a month. I found this really encouraging when I was starting out. I couldn't imagine finding 30 minutes every day, but 5 minutes? That was doable. I started doing a quick mindfulness practice while waiting for my coffee to brew each morning. Simple practices like focusing on your breath or body scanning can reduce cortisol levels by up to 25%. That's a significant drop in the stress hormone that damages your brain during burnout. Lower cortisol means less inflammation in your brain and better function in all those key regions we've been talking about. Jamie, a nurse I interviewed, experienced this transformation firsthand. "I started doing 1 minute of mindful breathing before entering each patient's room," she said. "It was like resetting my brain dozens of times throughout my shift. I went from forgetting details and feeling constantly overwhelmed to remembering more and handling the demands much better." Mindfulness also helps your brain shift from doing mode to being mode, which is essential for recovery. In doing mode, your brain is constantly planning, analyzing, judging, and problem-solving. In being mode, your brain can rest and process experiences without immediately trying to fix or change them. Burnout keeps your brain stuck in doing mode, which exhausts your neural resources. When I was burned out, my brain was always on, analyzing past mistakes, worrying about future tasks, judging my performance. Mindfulness helped me experience moments of just being present, without all that mental chatter. Think of mindfulness as taking your brain to physical therapy. If you injured your shoulder, you do specific exercises to strengthen the damaged muscles. Mindfulness does the same for your brain. It's targeted exercise for the neural connections damaged by burnout. A simple practice is to focus on your breathing for 5 minutes. When your mind wanders, which it will, just gently bring your attention back to your breath. Imagine you're in a meeting when your boss makes a comment that would normally trigger anxiety. With mindfulness training, you might notice your heart racing, take a few conscious breaths, and respond thoughtfully instead of reactively. The 5-4-3-2-1 technique is another powerful tool. Notice 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. Picture using this when you're feeling overwhelmed by a deadline. You pause, look around your office, noting specific objects, touch your desk and chair, listen to ambient sounds, notice scents in the room, and taste your coffee. This grounds you in the present moment and activates different parts of your brain. Regular mindfulness practice strengthens the exact areas damaged by burnout. It's not magic, it's practical brain training that gives your neural circuits what they need to rebuild themselves. Even small, consistent doses make a significant difference. Now let's look at practical daily habits that protect your brain from further damage. The mindfulness practices we've discussed, rebuild your neural pathways, creating the foundation you need to implement lasting behavioral changes that prevent burnout from recurring. Daily habits. Protecting your brain. What if simple changes to your daily routine could protect your brain from burnout damage? I found this question fascinating when I was researching burnout recovery. It turns out that small, consistent habits can make a huge difference in how your brain functions when you're stressed. Certain daily habits either protect or harm your brain, and the small changes really do add up over time. I noticed this myself when I was recovering from burnout. When I changed just a few of my daily routines, my focus and energy started coming back much faster than I expected. Many common productivity hacks actually make burnout worse by overtaxing your brain. Multitasking, working through lunch, or checking emails first thing in the morning might seem efficient, but they're actually draining your brain's limited resources. Decision fatigue hits hard when you're already burned out. Each decision depletes your prefrontal cortex a little more. By afternoon, your brain runs on empty. I experienced this when grocery shopping became overwhelming, standing frozen in the aisle, unable to choose between pasta sauces. Simplifying daily choices protects your brain. Steve Jobs wore the same outfit daily to eliminate one decision. You could create a weekly meal plan, set out clothes the night before, or use templates for common work tasks. I kept my mornings simple. Same breakfast, same routine, same route to work. This freed mental energy for important decisions later. My friend Lisa created a capsule wardrobe with just 15 mix-and-match pieces, turning a stressful morning ritual into a 2-minute, effortless task. Taking regular breaks aligns with your brain's natural attention cycle. Your brain naturally fluctuates between higher and lower alertness throughout the day. Instead of fighting this rhythm, work with it by taking a short break every 90 minutes. Even 5 to 10 minutes helps. Step away, look out a window, stretch, get water. I started setting a timer for 85 minutes of focused work followed by a 10-minute break. My productivity actually improved, despite technically working fewer minutes. Technology boundaries are crucial for brain recovery. Constant notifications keep your amygdala in high alert mode, like a persistent car alarm. Each ping triggers a small stress response, wearing down neural pathways over time. Try turning off non-essential notifications, placing your phone in another room while working, or using Do Not Disturb mode after certain hours. I deleted email from my phone entirely, checking it only at specific times on my computer. My stress levels dropped significantly, and I rarely missed anything important. Proper hydration dramatically affects brain function. Even mild dehydration reduces cognitive performance by up to 15% and increases stress hormone production. Your brain is about 75% water and needs proper hydration to function optimally. I keep a water bottle on my desk and refill it several times daily. When I forget, my thinking becomes foggy and problems seem magnified. My coworker started drinking a full glass of water first thing every morning, and her mid-afternoon headaches disappeared completely. Creating transition rituals between work and personal time helps your brain switch modes. When work and personal life blend together, your brain never fully relaxes. Develop a specific end-of-work ritual that signals it's time to shift gears. I close my laptop, put it in a drawer, and wash my hands while mentally saying, "Work is done for today." The cool water on my hands creates a sensory break that helps my brain understand it's time to relax. Another friend drives home with the radio on but switches it off a block from home, consciously releasing work thoughts in that final stretch of silence. Nature exposure powerfully supports brain recovery. Just 20 minutes in a natural setting lowers stress hormones and activates your parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest mode that counteracts burnout. I started eating lunch in a small park near my office instead of at my desk. The combination of fresh air, rustling leaves, and natural light became the highlight of my workday, creating a buffer against afternoon stress. These small daily habits create a protective shield around your brain, preventing damage while supporting recovery. The key is consistency. These actions compound over time. Start with 1 or 2 habits that seem most doable right now. Remember that protecting your brain isn't selfish. It's necessary. Your brain is the tool you use for everything. Taking care of it means showing up better for your work, loved ones, and yourself. Sometimes, though, these self-help strategies aren't enough. When burnout is severe or persistent, you might need additional support. Let's talk about when it's time to get professional help for your burnout, because knowing when to reach out is just as important as knowing how to help yourself. When to seek help. Professional support. How can you tell when your burnout requires more than self-help strategies? This is a question I struggled with during my own burnout experience. I kept thinking I could handle it on my own, that I just needed more sleep or better boundaries. But looking back, I wish I'd gotten professional help much sooner. Sometimes burnout becomes so severe that professional help is necessary for recovery. A therapist who specializes in burnout told me, "By the time most people come to see me, they've been trying to fix their burnout alone for months or even years." Many people wait too long to seek help, which makes recovery longer and more difficult. We tend to downplay our symptoms or think we should handle them on our own. I kept telling myself that everyone was stressed, that I needed to try harder or be stronger. By the time I finally saw a doctor, my burnout had progressed to a serious state. Several warning signs indicate it's time to get professional support. Persistent sleep problems are significant. If you've tried all the sleep hygiene tips we discussed earlier and still struggle to fall or stay asleep, your brain chemistry might need extra help. The relationship between sleep and burnout creates a cycle that often requires professional intervention to break. Another warning sign is the inability to feel positive emotions. When you can't remember the last time you felt joy, hope, or excitement about things you used to love, your brain is signaling it needs more support. I realized I hadn't genuinely laughed in weeks, which was alarming. Thoughts of self-harm require immediate professional attention. If you're having thoughts about hurting yourself or feeling the world would be better without you, please talk to a healthcare provider right away. These thoughts indicate burnout may have progressed to something more serious. When I finally sought help, my doctor recommended cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, which reduces burnout symptoms by up to 50%. CBT helps identify and change thought patterns that perpetuate burnout. I had automatic thoughts like, I have to be perfect at work, and if I take a break, I'm lazy. My therapist helped me challenge these thoughts and replace them with more realistic ones. After about 10 weeks of CBT, I noticed improvements. The brain fog began to lift, and I could think more clearly. The constant dread about work started to diminish. Research confirms this. Studies show CBT improves work performance and reduces mental strain for people with burnout. Sometimes medication is needed temporarily to help regulate brain chemistry and support recovery. My doctor prescribed a low-dose anti-anxiety medication for a few months to break the cycle of stress and sleep problems, giving my brain space to heal. I initially resisted medication, thinking it meant I was weak. My doctor explained, if you broke your leg, you wouldn't try to walk on it without a cast. Your brain needs similar support right now. This helped me see medication as a healing tool, not a crutch. Even with professional help, recovery takes time. Most people need 3 to 6 months for significant improvement. Recovery isn't linear either. You'll have good days and bad days. I had weeks where I felt better, then days where symptoms returned. This is normal, even with treatment. The overall trend should be improvement, even if the path is bumpy. Effective healthcare providers address both physical and psychological aspects of burnout. My doctor checked vitamin D levels, thyroid function, and other physical factors that can contribute to symptoms, while also discussing psychological strategies and lifestyle changes. This comprehensive approach significantly aided my recovery. Joining a support group for people experiencing burnout helped me feel less alone and provided practical recovery ideas. Professional help connects you with resources you might not find independently. Professional support accelerates your brain's recovery process when burnout is severe, like having an expert guide when you're lost in the woods, making the journey faster and safer. If you're wondering whether you need professional help, ask yourself, are my symptoms worsening despite self-care efforts? Is burnout affecting my relationships or work function? Do I feel stuck or hopeless about recovery? If you answered yes to any of these, it's time to talk to a healthcare provider. Remember that seeking help demonstrates strength and commitment to your health. I wish I'd understood this sooner in my own burnout journey. Now that we've covered all strategies, from understanding brain changes to sleep, exercise, mindfulness, daily habits, and professional support, let's wrap up with what you can do right now to start your brain's recovery process. Your brain is incredibly resilient. I've seen people recover from severe burnout and regain their focus, memory, and emotional balance. The key is giving your brain what it needs to heal itself. Start with just one small change today. Go to bed 30 minutes earlier tonight. Take a 10-minute walk during lunch. Practice 5 minutes of mindfulness. Your brain responds to these tiny improvements. Recovery isn't a straight line. You'll have good days and challenging ones. Be patient as progress builds gradually. These small changes compound like interest in a savings account. Modest deposits today create substantial growth over time. Your brain is waiting to flourish again. Give it the care it deserves.